Kent is the psychopathic ranch hand here on the ranch that has threatened to kill Susan and my father and I on multiple occasions. He is a convicted felon and recently purchased a firearm. After he purchased the firearm, we filed restraining orders against him, hoping that it would end the threats. This video details what happened the day after I missed the court hearing and the order of protection was revoked. Now, a few days ago, I put out a video of what our property looked like before and after Dream Chaser got here. Well, I'll put the link in the description, but basically we locked up this pipe corral attached to our house and attached these notes to it. Do not remove these locks or the sheriffs will be called. Stay 100 feet from this building. Well, we were hoping that Kent, the psychopath, would see it, and fortunately he did. But here he is reading the notes, and I guess he didn't really like it because he threw it in the mud and walked away. Well, that's where the drama starts. You see, that was on the 7th. Here's footage from the 13th of Kent walking up to our lock with some bolt cutters, and I was watching this live at the time, so right about now is when I called the sheriff. Kent didn't actually think that my father was home at the time, but it turns out that he was, and since we were both watching this live, we figured that this was finally the point where we catch him destroying our property and threatening us. We were ecstatic to be able to finally catch him on camera in the act. So why do I need to be telling this story? Well, turns out that it went pretty bad. Now, as you see here, Kent actually makes it through cutting the lock, and as a little thank you gift to us for putting it up, he throws it back towards our house and walks away. That was at 6:38. Here we see footage at 8:51, a little over 2 hours later, of first me and then 2 deputies pulling into the property. We finally got Kent, right? They're here to help us. Well, this is footage just before that of Kent on the quad at the barn. He's pulling a trailer with the quad full of manure, and right about now he sees us. If you look really closely in the background, even though it's foggy, you can see the headlights of the 4 cars coming down the road. So what does Kent do? Well, we told the officers about how he likes to carry a knife and how he possibly had a gun on him. So Kent thinks on his feet, and he gets down on one leg and takes off his belt, and right now he's hiding whatever he had on him underneath the trailer of the quad and putting manure over it. I didn't actually realize this until I watched the footage after all of this was said and done, so this is why the police didn't find anything on him. Well, now that he has all of his weapons stashed away, he is able to confidently and calmly walk towards the police because he knows he's not going to get caught for anything. So, since we've told the police officer that he may have weapons on him, the police are very cautious and pat him down, but obviously they're not going to find anything because all the weapons are hidden. So, they take him back to the cop car, and as you can see on the left, there's a pickup truck. That's actually the sheriff himself, and the 2 police cruisers are the deputies, and they lean him up against the rear deputy's car and start talking to him. Well, during that time, my dad and I were getting a little worried because Kent can talk his way out of a lot of situations, so we decided to get out of the way. And after that, first deputy decides to go and ask Susan about all of this because he wants to get to the bottom of the entire situation. So he goes ahead and walks over to Susan's house, as we can see here. We'll go ahead and note the time up at the top. This was at 8:54, going on 8:55, and he doesn't get back until 9:08, 9:09. So he spent quite a little while over there, and at this point we thought that Susan was going to help us and tell him about how Kent had threatened us and destroyed our property, but no, he starts to tell us that he talked to Susan and he's going to drop this entire thing. He says that it's a property dispute. She told him that Kent not only has never threatened any of us, but that she told him to cut the lock. And because she's half owner of the property, she has every right in the book to cut down our locks. My father points to the fence that it happened at, and tries to point out that it's attached to our house and that it shouldn't be allowed to be cut down even if she is half owner. But he seems to agree with his first statement that she has a right to cut down the locks. So we keep trying to protest and ask him about what about the threats that were made. Well, according to him, we can't actually prove the threats. So we asked him about driving the vehicles down the road, because Kent has driven Susan's vehicles up and down the road, and he has no license. It's been suspended. Well, the officer says we can't really prove that either, because we can't see his face in our footage. So at this point, we've pretty much lost hope, and we still don't know what has been said by Kent down with the other deputies and the sheriff. So what are we going to be walking into here? I was starting to get worried myself, but the officer walks back to the car, and when he gets back there, he talks to Kent for about 5 minutes, and they tell him the whole story that was told to him by Kent. Well, once he gets back there, he decides, I need to verify whatever Kent's saying. At first, because we were watching this live from the inside of the house, we thought that he was walking Kent over to us to apologize. But unfortunately, that's not what was happening. He was actually walking Kent over to Susan's house. Now, this was a few minutes of them going over there and coming back. But I wanted you to see that they walked over to Susan's house, and while me and my dad were in the house discussing what was going on and what was going to happen, we realized that the situation was starting to look pretty bleak. But that was at 9:15, and they actually walked back at 9:18. So 3 minutes, it must have been a quick conversation, nothing to worry about. Obviously, not much could have been said in 3 minutes. He might have just been telling her what was happening or what they were deciding. Well, this was about 10 minutes later. Susan was caught sneaking out of that gate and coming over to talk to the officers. What is she going to say that hasn't been said? Well, this worried me even more. So now that she's walking back over there, she leans up against the cop car and starts talking to him through his window. The sheriff has already left at this point, and I have no idea what was said, but she talked to that officer for quite a while, and I assume that if we were to call on Kent now, nothing would happen. Whether he attacked us or broke into our house, it would obviously be a very low priority call to them at this point. So let me just go over what happened to summarize. First off, we put up a lock on the pipe corral attached to our house because we didn't like the condition of it. We'd like to plant grass and have it grow back and be beautiful again. We told Susan about this. We told her that we were going to lock it, and we knew that Kent had a temper, so we put up signs directed to him to not cut down our locks, because we knew that if we didn't have a note and evidence saying we told him not to, it would be heresy. So he continued to cut down our lock, and Susan, turns out, had told him it was okay, but never mentioned it to us, even though we were a phone call away right across the road. All she had to do was call and tell us. But I think this was part of her plan to get the sheriff to come out here. So Kent cuts our lock. She knowingly lets it happen. She knowingly lets us call the sheriff. And when the sheriff gets here, she dismisses all claims and basically shuts us down, makes a mockery of us. So it's turned out pretty bad with that situation, because now the police aren't going to take us seriously, and whatever happens with Kent is going to be in our hands. So that's the story of cutting locks, and it was just one of the latest predicaments that we've been put in. Thank you for watching.